Books on Tape presents The Apprentice by Tess Gerritsen, read by Anna Fields. Prologue. Today I watched a man die. It was an unexpected event, and I still marvel at the fact this drama unfolded at my very feet. So much of what passes for excitement in our lives cannot be anticipated, and we must learn to savor the spectacles as they come, and appreciate the rare thrills that punctuate the otherwise monotonous passage of time. And my days do pass slowly here, in this world behind walls, where men are merely numbers, distinguished not by our names, nor by our God-given talents, but by the nature of our trespasses. We dress alike, eat the same meals, read the same worn books from the same prison cart. Every day is like another, and then some startling incident reminds us that life can turn on a dime. So it happened today, August 2nd, which ripened gloriously hot and sunny, just the way I like it. While the other men sweat and shuffle about like lethargic cattle, I stand in the center of the exercise yard, my face turned to the sun like a lizard soaking up warmth. My eyes are closed, so I do not see the knife's thrust, nor do I see the man stumble backwards and fall. But I hear the rumble of agitated voices, and I open my eyes. In a corner of the yard a man lies bleeding. Everyone else backs away and assumes their usual see-nothing, know-nothing masks of indifference. I alone walk toward the fallen man. For a moment I stand looking down at him. His eyes are open and sentient. To him I must be merely a black cutout against the glaring sky. He is young, with white blonde hair, his beard scarcely thicker than down. He opens his mouth and pink froth bubbles out. A red stain is spreading across his chest. I kneel beside him and tear open his shirt, bearing the wound which is just to the left of the sternum. The blade has slid in neatly between ribs, and has certainly punctured the lung and perhaps nicked the pericardium. It is a mortal wound, and he knows it. He tries to speak to me, his lips moving without sound, his eyes struggling to focus. He wants me to bend closer, perhaps to hear some deathbed confession, but I am not the least bit interested in anything he has to say. I focus instead on his wound, on his blood. I am well acquainted with blood. I know it down to its elements. I have handled countless tubes of it, admired its many different shades of red. I have spun it in centrifuges into bicolored columns of packed cells and straw-colored serum. I know its gloss, its silken texture. I have seen it flow in satiny streams out of freshly incised skin. The blood pours from his chest like holy water from a sacred spring. I press my palm to the wound, bathing my skin in that liquid warmth, and blood coats my hand like a scarlet glove. He believes I am trying to help him, and a brief spark of gratitude lights his eyes. Most likely this man has not received much charity in his short life. How ironic that I should be mistaken as the face of mercy. Behind me boots shuffle and voices bark commands. "Back! Everyone get back!" Someone grasps my shirt and hauls me to my feet. I am shoved backwards away from the dying man. Dust swirls and the air is thick with shouts and curses as we are herded into a corner. The instrument of death, the shiv, lies abandoned on the ground. The guards demand answers, but no one saw anything. No one knows anything. No one ever does. In the chaos of that yard I stand slightly apart from the other prisoners, who have always shunned me. I raise my hand, still dripping with the dead man's blood, and inhale its smooth and metallic fragrance. Just by its scent I know it's young blood, drawn from young flesh. The other prisoners stare at me and edge even further away. They know I am different. They have always sensed it. As brutal as these men are, they are leery of me because they understand who and what I am. I search their faces, seeking my blood brother among them, one of my kind. I do not see him, not here, even in this house of monstrous men. But he does exist. I know I am not the only one of my kind who walks this earth. Somewhere there is another, and he waits for me. Chapter 1. Already the flies were swarming. 4 hours on the hot pavement of South Boston had baked the pulverized flesh, releasing the chemical equivalent of a dinner bell, and the air was alive with buzzing flies. Though what remained of the torso was now covered with a sheet, there was still much exposed tissue for scavengers to feast on. Bits of gray matter and other unidentifiable parts were dispersed in a radius of 30 feet along the street. A skull fragment had landed in a second-story flower box, and clumps of tissue adhered to parked cars. Detective Jane Rizzoli had always possessed a strong stomach, but even she had to pause, eyes closed, fists clenched, angry at herself for this moment of weakness. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. She was the only female detective in the Boston PD homicide unit, and she knew that the pitiless spotlight was always trained on her. Every mistake, every triumph would be noted by all. Her partner Barry Frost had already tossed up his breakfast in humiliatingly public view, and he was now sitting with his head on his knees in their air-conditioned vehicle, waiting for his stomach to settle. She could not afford to fall victim to nausea. She was the most visible law enforcement officer on the scene, and from the other side of the police tape the public stood watching, registering every move she made, every detail of her appearance. She knew she looked younger than her age of 34, and she was self-conscious about maintaining an air of authority. What she lacked in height she compensated for with her direct gaze, her squared shoulders. She had learned the art of dominating a scene, if only through sheer intensity. But this heat was sapping her resolve. She had started off dressed in her usual blazer and slacks, and with her hair neatly combed. Now the blazer was off, her blouse was wrinkled, and the humidity had frizzed her dark hair into unruly coils. She felt assaulted on all fronts by the smells, the flies, the piercing sunlight. There was too much to focus on all at once, and all those eyes were watching her. Loud voices drew her attention. A man in a dress shirt and tie was trying to argue his way past a patrolman. "Look, I gotta get to a sales conference, okay? I'm an hour late as it is. But you've got your goddamn police tape wrapped around my car, and now you're saying I can't drive it? It's my own frickin' car." "It's a crime scene, sir." "It's an accident." "We haven't determined that yet." "Does it take you guys all day to figure it out? Why don't you listen to us? The whole neighborhood heard it happen." Rizzoli approached the man, whose face was glazed with sweat. It was 11:30, and the sun near its zenith shone down like a glaring eye. "What exactly did you hear, sir?" she asked. He snorted. "Same thing everyone else did." "A loud bang?" "Yeah, around 7:30. I was just getting out of the shower. Looked out my window, and there he was, lying on the sidewalk. You can see it's a bad corner. Asshole drivers come flying around it like bats out of hell. Must have been a truck hit him." "Did you see a truck?" "No." "Hear a truck?" "No." "And you didn't see a car, either?" "Car, truck," he shrugged. "It's still a hit and run." It was the same story repeated half a dozen times by the man's neighbors. Sometime between 7:15 and 7:30 a.m. there had been a loud bang in the street. No one actually saw the event. They had simply heard the noise and found the man's body. Rizzoli had already considered and rejected the possibility that he was a jumper. This was a neighborhood of 2-story buildings, nothing tall enough to explain such catastrophic damage to a jumper's body. Nor did she see any evidence of an explosion as the cause of this much anatomical disintegration. "Hey, can I get my car out now?" the man said. "It's that green Ford." "The one with the brains splattered on the trunk?" "Yeah." "What do you think?" She snapped and walked away to join the medical examiner, who was crouched in the middle of the road studying the asphalt. "People on this street are jerks," said Rizzoli. "No one gives a damn about the victim. No one knows who he is, either." Dr. Ashford Tierney didn't look up at her, but just kept staring at the road. Beneath sparse strands of silver hair, his scalp glistened with sweat. Dr. Tierney seemed older and more weary than she had ever seen him. Now, as he tried to rise, he reached out in a silent request for assistance. She took his hand, and she could feel, transmitted through that hand, the creak of tired bones and arthritic joints. He was an old Southern gentleman, a native of Georgia, and he'd never warmed to Rizzoli's Boston bluntness, just as she had never warmed to his formality. The only thing they had in common were...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?